Greetings, everyone. This is Jeremiah again. It is approximately 1943 hours, Coordinated Pacific Daylight Time, and you are listening to number 3 of, I guess now, the semi-daily rants. So I know I skipped a day. I recorded a rant yesterday, and, well, frankly, didn't get time to load it. Work has been a killer recently. In fact, the next couple daily rants will probably be from radio sites, because I will be pulling out a lot of equipment, a ton of equipment. Not a ton literally, but a lot of equipment. So today's daily rant is actually a different topic altogether. I, as I like to do in the evenings, was watching a bit of Star Trek, a little, revamp on how my childhood, I suppose. And I was watching an episode of Deep Space Nine, Season 6, episode, give me a moment, episode 6, I believe. As soon as I load it on the PC here, I will tell you that. And 9, Season 6, episode 9, my apologies. And in the episode, a group of appearing to our standards mentally disabled individuals are brought to the station. It's revealed that those individuals are actually failed genetically engineered children who are adults now. And as an unintended result, these children have what we would consider mental deficiencies. Overly narcissistic, overly paranoid, effectively mute because of psychological problems, overly empathic, etc., etc., etc. All things that to some level we all have, I won't say suffer from, but we all have to one extent or the other. And Dr. Bashir, being a genetically engineered human in the series himself, tries to befriend them and help them feel useful. And in feeling useful, he helps, they participate in trying to analyze via statistics the Dominion movements and figure out a way they can win the war. They find out, they assume that the war is not a winnable thing and propose that they should quit, they propose they should give up, etc., etc., etc. The interesting context in the series is how people treat the genetically engineered individuals. Now, in this, the genetically engineered individuals are effectively their futuristic, pleasantly way of saying those who are mentally retarded, or retarded isn't really even a good word, those with mental dissimilarities, or those who are perceived to be mentally outside of the normal parameters. There we go, that's probably a better way to say that. So, I got thinking about that, and the way in the episode they were treated, that, they're not really suitable for all tasks. And, well, we wouldn't want them to get in everywhere. We need to control what they're doing, and these people are out of control. And when really they were very much aware of exactly what was going on. One of the characters, Jack, who is the paranoid one, was extremely violent and extremely manipulative and had a marvelous understanding of how to manipulate and tug at the strings of people. So, what is interesting about this is when I look at this in terms of the reflection of my experience with depression, which is fairly recent, and unfortunately re-emerging in a lot of cases. In the recent cases anyway, my depression has been re-emerging, and luckily, via my own mindfulness, I've been able to wrangle it. I don't want to say control it, but I've been able to wrangle it in, for the most extent, and do preventative measures. Unlike my freaking allergies. So, what got me thinking was how we treat individuals who have a different brain process. Those of us who have depression, those who are schizophrenic, those who have bipolar disorder, whether hormonally driven or neurotransmitter driven, those who have I mean, I'm limited in my knowledge of mental health. I wish one of my friends were here that had more experience on that. But anyway, those who have different brain workings, how we treat them. And it's so interesting how they're really no different than us. They're really no us. As in, there's a ubiquitous us, that there's all so normal, giant, huge us. There is no us. Let's clarify that on the get-go. Every human's different. All of them. All the humans are different. All the mammals are different. All the insects are different. All the lizards are different. All the fish are different. All are different. We are all based on a similar construction. And yes, my DNA sequence, both epi and given by birth, is much like yours, up to 99.99999999999 infinitum. We're pretty much all the same. In fact, one of my theories is that the reason we look for differences so much is because our species is so homogeneous. Different topic. So, despite the fact that we are all the same, we all function slightly differently. The inside of my head, mentally, not physically, or physically, possibly, but mostly mentally, does not look like the inside of your head, mentally. Your mental scape is nowhere near what my mental scape is, because we're two individual people. Two different constructs, two different interpretations, two different sets of filters. So we're different. And in that, I have trouble classifying those people with severe mental differences as any less than. Because being any less than doesn't make you being different doesn't make you any less than. Because, a good example, a good everyday example, mania. It happens. Mania happens in normal people. And I say normal by social standards of normal. Mania happens. You have moments where you just go, the best word to describe it is psychotic in your head. And I don't mean literally psychotic, or maybe I do. I'm not any way a psychologist or someone who studies the brain just as a hobby at all. People lose it. People have temporary loss of it. People just go berserk sometimes and shoot people and drive crazy and get into screaming matches. And a lot of that is it could be caused by hormones, it caused by emotions, it can be caused by outside substances in the brain. There's a lot of things that it can be caused by. It doesn't make them any less than. And on top of that, many, many things that they are finding now that were classified as mental illness, they're finding are not. Homosexuality, actually, all the way up until 82 or 85, I'll put a link down below to the place where it says when it was knocked off the DSM, was classified as a mental illness. They were treating it the same way, well, in the same classification as like depression and stuff like that. Being homosexual, you would classify as mentally ill. Now, to us now, that seems a bit crazy. Back then, not so much. And it was not so much not because of any scientific evidence, but because, in my theory, my personal opinion here, because of cultural reference. The cultural reference was that homosexuality was wrong. Therefore, it must be a mental illness. There must be something wrong with you if you're homosexual. And I think the same thing goes for things like bipolar and things like depression and all the mixtures in between. I think everyone, to some extent, goes through depression. I think everyone, to some extent, probably is affected by some sort of bipolar or seasonal depression type scenario. It doesn't make... I am no less of a person because I've gone through and continue to deal with depression than anyone else. Because I'm sure that everyone else has dealt with it to one level or the other. No one is perfectly happy. Not even the Buddha. Not even Gandhi. I'm sure Jesus was pretty unhappy. I'm sure Muhammad was pretty freaking unhappy at many points in time. The Pope, I'm sure Pope Francis is probably unhappy lots of times. I'm sure there are lots of people I'm forgetting here that have been elevated via the mythos of our current culture to God status. Or, correction, I acknowledge the fact that Jesus is not considered a god. Muhammad is a prophet, he's not a god. Buddha, well, he's the Buddha. He was the last Buddha, so he's not necessarily a god either. So, it's a thing. Anyway, that out of the way, I'm sure even those individuals that we idealize were plenty unhappy a fair amount of the time, and I'm sure they dealt with it as well. Their brains work differently, which is what helped them. I'm sure the various Muslim prophets and the various teachers of Christianity and the various teachers of Buddhism and the various followers and teachers of the Tao and all the other religions that I'm forgetting, all the followers of all the ancient European religions, all the followers of the ancient Native American religions, continue, because there's a lot of them out there, as many as there are cultures. These are just the ones that I'm familiar with. I mean, the ones who revolutionized those beliefs, their brains thought different. I mean, hell, look at Einstein. He thought different. Look at Hawking's. Look at Sir Isaac Newton, for heaven's sake. They thought different, which is why they revolutionized it. And now we're penalizing people who think different, classifying them as retards, or classifying them as schizophrenic, or classifying them as something that is detrimental. Now, on the flip side of this equation, there is the point, or there is not the point, but there is the fact that because of some of these differences, these individuals have a hard time. They have a hard time functioning, and I can't really judge a person because of that. A, because a lot of people are born with that, and B, people without schizophrenia and bipolar and all this other stuff have a hard time functioning. Think about when you got really super emotional last time and how much it fucked you up. Emotions do that. They're drugs. Your brain can get flooded with emotion, and it can have the similar effect as many drugs do. I'm not going to get into the scientific part of it because that's really complicated. We can get into that another time. We all suffer from a mental malady of some sort. We suffer from bad decisions. We suffer from perceptual filters. We suffer from letting our emotions get to us. Falling too much in love, becoming too angry, being too sad. And enough of those peptides, the chemicals that run our emotions, enough of those peptides can damage it. It can damage the receptors that receive the peptides and transmit to your brain the emotions that you are feeling. Enough of that can damage it, just the same way as too much. You take too much heroin, and you won't get high off of it anymore with the same dosage. You drink enough caffeine, and you won't get the buzz like you did when you started drinking caffeine. You smoke enough tobacco, and you won't get that same feeling from the nicotine that you did many, many years ago. You smoke enough pot, and the effectiveness of the pot will start to go down, because the neuroreceptors that are responsible for those altered states of mind that you experience when you drink coffee or smoke tobacco or smoke pot or drink an energy drink, well, which is caffeine and other things, and B12s, but that is a mental state. That is. I mean, between illegal drugs and legal drugs, there aren't much difference, other than the magnitude of effect. And even then, there's not much difference. I mean, the magnitude effect between alcohol and pot. Alcohol should be classified as a legal drug because it has such a large and massive impact on your brain and your endocrine system, where pot doesn't. Pot doesn't have that effect, which is why I'm glad that I live in Washington, even though I don't smoke it. I'm glad I live in a state that is working towards legalizing it, though very pokily. With that said, all of that, including emotions, including peptides, cause altered states of mind. And in those altered states of mind, we may not think clearly. We may not think straight, logic, any of that. And that's no need, there's no reason to discriminate against a person because of that. Whether because they were born that way and they can't produce a certain kind of chemical, or they don't have enough receptors for that kind of chemical, or maybe they have too many receptors. I know people, and I know people who are not classified as mentally ill, and I have met people who are classified as mentally ill, who have too many peptide receptors, effectively. And that large number of emotional receptors makes them extremely emotional, like explosively emotional sometimes. And I can't blame them for that. Their brain is different. They react differently. Now, with that said, I can pin them with the responsibility of being aware of it, especially if they're made aware of it, especially if they're just painfully made aware of it over people's reactions or help from friends or advice from psychologists or counselors, and they choose to do nothing about it. It's kind of like an alcoholic who knows they're an alcoholic, their friends are trying to help them, and they simply just choose to do nothing about it. There is a threshold, in my opinion, in my thought process on how this works. There's a threshold in which a line can be drawn where you can decide, a line can be drawn between responsibility and not knowing. Some mental illnesses, I admit, again, I don't know a lot about them, but some mental illnesses I know enough about that the individuals just can't even realize that they're mentally ill. Okay, that has to be proven by science before you figure that out, etc., etc. There are others, though, when you're made aware of it, and you choose to do nothing about it, hands off. That's your choice. That's your choice, man. If you know you got a problem, or if you know some addiction is not helpful, it's being destructive, and you don't know anything about it, responsibility is on you. Now, there are many safe things that people are addicted to. I have to admit, I'm addicted to coffee. Pretty solidly, I'm addicted to coffee. Like today, I did not have very much coffee. I had a major headache until I had a Red Bull, and then I was fine. I'm addicted to coffee. That is a sign of being addicted to coffee. I acknowledge it. Now, I have to admit, it's very detrimental on my liver, and it is not so great on my blood pressure. So I'm trying to back off after having 2 quad shots a day for the last year. One would think it's probably best to kind of back that stuff off a little bit, so I take the pain of breaking my coffee addiction yet again and wean my body off of it, and then I'll probably get back on it, and then I'll wean my body out, and that's my choice. That's my responsibility to deal with that. I don't depend it on you or any of my friends to say, oh dude, I gotta have a coffee, come on, help me out, I gotta have a coffee. That's not their responsibility, it's my responsibility. Now if they choose to buy one, cool. But it's also my responsibility, if I'm trying to get myself off of it, to tell them, no, I'm trying to stop doing that as much. Same thing with some of my friends that were addicted to smoking. It's their choice to say yes or no. It is their choice, as Leon says hello to the camera, it is their choice to decide to stop smoking or not. I mean, they're aware of it, and they make the choice. And I guess that's where I'm coming down to. Again, this is not a simple topic. This is a complicated topic. And I think it is a topic that is very much worth people considering, because this is the kind of topic, down off the monitor, Leon, and this is the kind of topic that is very, very difficult for people, because they make assumptions on how people are supposed to act. They make assumptions on what people are supposed to do, and in doing so, they may discount or may assume incorrectly and cause a lot of damage because someone's brain doesn't work that way. I mean, it's kind of like assuming a cat is going to act like a human. She can't act like a human. She doesn't even have a brain remotely similar to mine. She's a feline. I'm a sapien. I'm Homo sapien. Our brain structures are different. She thinks differently than I do because her brain structure is fundamentally different. So when I say hello to her when I get home, I say hello to her like a cat would. You know, I use my hands to clean her. I stimulate right here on her so that she knows that I care about her. And vice versa, she's learned to say hello to me in the way a human says hello. She actually will hug me with her paws. She'll get up to my eye level to say hello and meow at me. This is learning to adapt with different brain structures. And so, I guess as a conclusion of this, now that I see this thing has run for 20 minutes or so, my longest rant yet, I would say that the best bet, is learn how the other person's brain works. Don't make assumptions. That seems to be the big thing in a lot of places in my life that I've learned, is it is bad to make assumptions about anything, really. I mean, if it's discussed and okay, this person does this every day on this time, or I make an agreement with my partner that her and her husband are going to show up to my house every day at a certain time to pick me up to go to work. That's an agreement. That's not an assumption. If I make the assumption that, well, she should bring me coffee every morning, that is an assumption. And it's probably an incorrect one, because she may be happy to bring me coffee every morning, but she's not going to bring me coffee every morning. A, I know she's not infinitely full of money. And I don't think anyone is, because there's no such thing as infinite money. And B, that's putting an expectation on her that is irresponsible on my part. So don't assume what people are going to think. Don't assume because of people's behavior that something is wrong with them. That's basically using yourself as the standard, of norm, and then judging people based on that. You're no more normal than anyone else in this world. And if you look at, we can look at normal statistically and say, okay, I land somewhere within the middle of the bell curve. But do you land in the middle of the bell curve on everything? Sure, I may land on the middle of the bell curve for my height and for my weight. And I may land in the middle of the bell curve towards one side or the other for my education versus my age, and my income versus my age, or many, many other things. I do not land on the middle of the bell curve for my spiritual beliefs. I do not land on the middle of the bell curve for my intelligence, as measured per IQ, which that's a whole other topic I'll talk about later. I do not measure on the bell curve. I do not measure in the middle of the bell curve for a lot of things. There's lots of them. A human is not simply just one statistic. A human is a group of statistics. A person is a group of statistics. And those statistics may land all over the place. So don't assume. Don't judge people because, don't judge people because of what weird stuff they're doing. Everyone's weird. Everyone is weird to some extent. So on that topic, I'm going to link below a channel based out of LA, I Am Other. And it is a channel that celebrates the weirdness of people. Pharrell Williams, I think his name is, I can never remember how to pronounce his first name, was the one who started it. He's the one that did the Happy song. And he's kind of started this because he's all about the different, all about the weird. And I think it's a very positive thing, because it's normalizing, come on, now follow me, I know this is weird, it is normalizing weird. And I'm saying normalizing in this context of people are getting used to it, people are getting comfortable with this, that's normalization. And he's basically helping people get comfortable with the fact that not everyone is the same. And in fact, a lot of people can be a lot different. And a lot of people can be a little different. And it's not that big of a deal. And I think the internet, honestly, is helping us with that as well. Because we're being exposed to a much wider base of people, as opposed to what our parents were exposed to, and our parents before them were exposed to, where it was a very narrow set of people that they could geographically get to, they could physically get to. Now we can experience people who we can't physically get to. We can see and experience people who are different. So, I guess in wrapping this up 25 minutes later, celebrate the people that are different. Celebrate the people who aren't like you. Talk to them. Find out how they're different. Learn something about them. Because in the process, you may end up learning something about you. Or you may learn something that is not you, which will help you lead to something to learn that is you. And those have been born with brains that are extremely different. The only difference between the ones called mentally retarded and the only difference between some of them that are mentally retarded and geniuses is simply how they are treated. Now, granted, some of them don't have IQs enough to be geniuses. Some of them, their brains are different enough, they have very low comprehension. Some of them, who are autistic and who have brains shifted one side or the other in the intelligence range, are so intelligent that they don't interact with us, they don't interact with everyone else very well, but they're intelligent beyond what most people know. And I found that most people with high IQ numbers have a very difficult time dealing with other people because they don't think that way. They just think differently. It's taken me forever, it seems like forever, to learn many social patterns and social methods. And honestly, the only way I was able to do it was through math, and the only way that I was able to do it was through the coaxing of those around me that love me. And for them to show me and to not belittle me because I didn't understand some social paradigm, but to sit down and explain it to me. And to say, okay, dude, this is how this works. This is what you're supposed to do. And here's why you're supposed to do it. And then I was able to understand it. There was a lot. I was so freaking awkward out of high school. And I still am awkward in a lot of situations. There's a lot of people out there who are incredibly intelligent that just don't know how to work with people. They just don't know how to interact with their humans because they don't get it. Their social interaction skills aren't there. Their brain doesn't cognizate that. Cognizate, it's a new word. Look it up in the Jeremiah Dictionary. So, be kind to those who don't necessarily understand. I mean, same on the flip side. People who aren't as smart as you may not get what you're saying. Be kind to them. Don't belittle them. Don't make them feel dumb. There's a difference between ignorance and dumb. If you just don't know, you're ignorant. If you refuse to learn, it's dumb. Don't make them feel dumb for it. Don't make them feel like an idiot. Just because they don't know some advanced calculus, or they don't know some really cool advanced way to do this cool thing that you do, they just don't know. Help them out. If they want to learn, teach them. If they don't, ask if they want to know. If they don't, give them what they need to know, go on your way. Don't, fire hose them with all kinds of junk. Just help them out. Anyway, I've kind of rounded around. I don't know if I've actually covered enough points or hit enough points. I guess what I'm saying is just be kind to humanity. Be kind to life in general. It's no benefit to anyone to really belittle someone or some creature because they're different. There's just no use to it, in my opinion. There's no function to it. Because if they're different, they're different. And as long as they're not going to try to, run out and kill you, let them do their thing. It's no big deal. You know, if you believe that homosexuality is fundamentally wrong and your neighbor is gay, you believe homosexuality is fundamentally wrong to you. That belief is only valid in your brain. It may not be valid in his brain or her brain. It may be perfectly fine, but they may think it's fundamentally wrong to kill animals because they're vegan. That only applies in their brain. keep your beliefs in your brain. Be kind to others. I mean, that's what Jesus asked for. That's what Muhammad asked for. That's what Buddha asked for, and Lao Tzu, and all the other religious leaders. Over and over and over in the human race, it's been taught, be kind to others. I mean, it's one of the pillars of Islam to give alms to help those less fortunate than you. It's one of the big deals in Christianity. Don't let the right hand know what the left is doing when you're giving alms. Don't even think about it. Just help people out. Be kind. You know? If you see someone and they look like they're down, ask them how you can help. Money may not necessarily help. Alms doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be food. It could be assistance. It could be pointing them in the direction of a shelter. You know? It could be just help them. Anyway, I've probably ranted plenty enough on this. It's one of my hot buttons, and I just got thinking about it today after that episode. Be kind, peoples. Be kind. Show compassion. And if each one of us show a little bit of kindness and a little bit of compassion throughout our day, it'll spread. Because it may start out with only you, and you may think it's not very much. But if you help someone, they'll help someone else, and they'll help others. It will spread. It will become exponential. Kind of like the adage, smile at one person and helps, and they'll smile at someone else, and they'll smile at someone else, and it'll just multiply out. Be nice to someone. Be cool, but, pick a random flower and give it to a random stranger that looks like they could use some cheering up. I mean, heck, the other night when I was on a date with my partner, a random punk couple came up to me in the bush. It smells amazing, doesn't it? You want it? And I'm like, sure. She's like, she gave me this beautiful rose. A little tiny little mini rose. Random acts of kindness. It's good. It helps the world be better. It helps the world a lot more than hate. It helps the world a lot more than judgment. And it helps the world a lot more than belittling and trying to browbeat people into your way of thinking. Let them think the way they want to think. Life ain't about controlling. And if you think it's about controlling, well, control yourself first, I guess. I don't know any better way because my brain's not there. I don't think that way. So I can't know what it's like to be a person that thinks the world needs to be controlled. Anyway, with that, there'll be the puppies and the kittens down below if you think this thing's horrible and you're depressed now and you need some cheering up. Or if you thought my video was too dark, which that kind of is, I'm going to have to probably post-process that. I'll put a link down to I Am Other down below so you guys can check that out. Some cool projects, some kind of weird projects, lots of very funky fashion going on. I kind of like some of the funky fashion. It's cool. The music stuff is pretty cool. Everything may not be cool for you, but that's kind of the point. Find the stuff you think is cool, let the other stuff roll on by. Someone else thinks it's cool. Be happy for them that they think it's cool. Anyway, keep chugging along. Do something happy for someone. Make someone smile. Whether it's your wife, your brother, your sister, your husband, whatever. Make them smile. Do something for a random stranger. Walk by and smile at them. Give them a good compliment. Help them have a better day. It'll help your weekend go better. It'll help their weekend go better. And hopefully, it'll spread a little wave of happiness through the general area and maybe further out. You never know how far your smile's going to go. Give it a try. You'll be surprised. You won't see the results because the scale is too large. But you'll make a difference. I promise you'll make a difference. Now, as much as I can promise for anything wider scale than me. Kind of a thing. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Have a good weekend.